Hello and welcome to Wake Up with Mary Kate. Have you ever wondered what it takes to pursue a job in the medical field? If so, all your questions can be answered as we watch today and hear from NP Burke about what it takes to become a nurse practitioner. Welcome, NP Burke. I'm so glad to have you here on our show today to help explore some of the overlooked jobs in the medical field.
Oh, of course. Thank you so much for having me.
Now, before we begin, I'd just like to point out the incredible resemblance between the two of us. It's incredible, really. It's incredible.
Isn't it? I have patients ask me all the time if I film a morning show, and they look so disappointed when I tell them no.
Well, I'm sure you provide better care than I ever could. But you mentioned working in a hospital. What are some of the job duties of a nurse practitioner?
Well, a nurse practitioner can do almost anything that a doctor can do, but the only difference between NPs and doctors is that we're under their supervision and they obviously are not. But a longer name for nurse practitioners is APRNs, and that stands for Advanced Practicing Registered Nurse. And different job duties that they can perform are patient exams, diagnosing different diseases, treating certain diseases, as well as prescribing different medications.
So, can you perform things like surgeries?
Yes, I can. Nurse practitioners have to be able to do a lot of different things in many different fields because as an NP, you can need to be performing anything from mole removal and dermatology to prescribing ADD medication.
Well, that's a really broad range of specialties, and that's all very important. But there must be some pros and cons about your job. Tell us a little bit about that.
Sure, well, some pros are I can help a lot of people every day and focus mainly on prevention, patient education, and wellness. And this is helpful because I can help a lot of different people with anything that they may need. And some of the cons of my job are that very few people know what nurse practitioners are capable of, so oftentimes they might be uncomfortable with us performing certain job duties that we really are trained to do.
Well, that long education process must be a con as well.
Well, actually, that's another great thing about being an NP, that you're not spending half your life in school. And the usual route that most people take is starting by getting their BSN, their Bachelor of Science in Nursing, and that usually takes about 4 years. And following that, people get their MSN, which is like 1.5 to 3 years. And then after that, they usually go on to get their graduate records exam.
Where did you go to school to get all of your credits?
Well, for my undergraduate degree, I went to the University of Seattle because of its location, it being near water, and I also have family living in the state, and I wanted to be in a big city, as well as going to a Jesuit school, so it checked all the boxes. And while at SU, I had to complete a number of prerequisites, including writing classes, math, humanities, as well as social and natural sciences, and a number of theology courses. But after completing those different prereqs, I was able to get my BSN in nursing by completing a large amount of science classes and nurses training courses.
But you still weren't done with all of your school, correct?
No, I wasn't finished yet. After that, I had to go on to the University of Seattle's graduate program because, again, I love the city. And also as a SU undergrad student, I got direct admissions into their program. And while studying there, I learned all about the different specialties an NP can have. And there I discovered my calling was in dermatology care and psychiatrics.
Wow, those are two very different specialties.
Yeah, they are very different fields, but you learn all about the different options you have as a nurse practitioner while in school. And some of the top NP schools are the University of Washington, University of Pennsylvania, Columbia University, University of Michigan Ann Arbor, and the University of California, San Francisco.
And nowadays, it seems like people can be sued for absolutely anything. What kind of legal issues does a nurse practitioner face?
Well, there was a case in New Jersey, actually, where an NP was performing an abdominal surgery on a patient trying to remove a tumor. And after the tumor was removed, they left one of their instruments inside of the patient and closed it up and everything. And the way that they discovered it was when the patient's in recovery and he's complaining of severe abdominal pain. So they took him in for an x-ray to see what was going on, and they discovered that the instrument was still inside of him. And so the NP was sued for $300,000 and malpractice because of the further damage that the patient was caused.
Are you serious? That's awful. Can you imagine telling your boss, hey, I'm going to need a little bit more time because I need to recover from this knife that was left in my body? That's ridiculous.
I know, and those are just some of the things you have to look out for in the medical field.
But really, let's be honest, being sued can't be all bad. Not when you make, how much did you say your salary was?
Well, the U.S. national average is $93,000, and where I'm working in Spokane, Washington, the average is $91,000. But I have friends in Denver where the average is $92,000, and in New York it's $106,000. San Francisco it's $109,000, and Memphis it's $85,000.
And because the medical field is dominated by men, does that have an effect on your salary?
Well, men and women are actually given equal pay as a nurse practitioner, so much so that with the degree of error, the numbers are almost identical.
Wow, I actually have a really hard time believing that. But it's amazing that the numbers are so similar.
I know, it's one of the few jobs that makes equal pay possible.
And much earlier you mentioned working in a hospital. Is that the only place an NP can work?
Well, nurse practitioners can work in private practices, either owning their own or in separate practices working under the supervision of a doctor at that particular practice. And there you'll be working around 30 to 40 hours a week. And you can also work in a hospital setting where you'll be working 36 plus hours a week. And there's a dog on our set. But there you'll be earning more like $191,000 to $325,000 because in hospitals nurse practitioners are in such high demand. And there's also ER work that you can do where you'll be working more like 80 plus hours a week and earning $100,000 a year. And in addition to that, there's clinic and Doctors Without Borders, which you'll be earning a lot less in, but they're also very rewarding.
And NP Burke, I couldn't help but notice that your personality seems to fit right in line with that of most other NPs. Is there a certain personality type that works best for this job?
Well, I myself am an INFJ, which means I'm an introvert, intuitor, feeler, judger. And by being an introvert, it means that I can be patient and listen to what my patients have to say and what they need help with. And I can provide thorough care for them. And being an intuitor means that I notice patterns and important facts, as well as I ask many questions and look ahead into the future to see big picture rather than smaller limitations. And being a feeler is also important because a lot of doctors have a reputation of being cold and not caring for their patients as much as they should. So by being a feeler, this means that I can connect with my patients and they can trust me with their health. And being a judger is also important because I like to take control and charge of different situations, and I'm good at developing a plan for them that can help them to reach a healthier future.
Well, that sounds spot on to me. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why NP Burke is my primary care provider. She does such a great job with all of her patients. And thank you so much again for coming on to our show and telling us all about being a nurse practitioner.
No problem, I had a great time.
And I just have one last question. Is it okay if I set up an appointment before you go?
That'd be great. I'll set you up with one of my RNs to make an appointment.
All right, everyone. Give NP Burke a big round of applause for being here today. And don't forget to watch tomorrow as we bring on Mr. Peter Reiser to talk about all the challenges he faces working at an all-girls high school. Thanks again for watching, and remember, smile big!